Hello, how's it going? In today's video, I'm covering The Guardian's Burden and The Darkening of Medivh from Chronicle Volume 2. So let's get... Medivh arrived at Karazhan and found the woman from his dreams waiting for him. It wasn't the woman of his dreams though, because it was his mum, Aegwynn, and she was bloody furious. Why have you kept me waiting all this time? Took you frickin' ages. I've been stood here for like 15 years or something. Plus I hear you nearly destroyed a kingdom. Wouldn't have happened if you'd listened to your mother. Medivh just kinda accepted all this. He was in no position to argue. For over a year, Medivh hung out with his mummy. She taught him what it meant to be a true guardian. Her first lesson was to convince him he couldn't trust anyone, especially the Council of Tirisfal. They were jerks. One of Aegwynn's few mates, Morose, agreed to stay with Medivh and be a caretaker for the tower. And Aegwynn was all like, okay, you can trust Morose, he cool, but no one else. She urged him to distance himself from the outside world. Medivh tried to inform his mother of the darkness dwelling inside him. It had shown itself multiple times, and he was kind of scared. And Aegwynn didn't really care, to be honest. She'd felt the same thing during her tenure as Guardian, and had always thought it was just the stress of the job. She didn't have a clue that it was actually Sargeras that had been twisting her mind, and was now doing the same to Medivh. Eventually, it was time for Aegwynn to leave. She knew if she stayed by her son's side, the Council of Tirisfal would come looking. The nosy buggers. So she returned to her exile. Medivh went to the libraries of Karazhan and hit the books. Meanwhile, the Council of Tirisfal managed to discover Medivh was the new Guardian anyway. They'd heard of the Mage's exploits in Stormwind, investigated a little bit, and tracked him down to Karazhan. But the thing is, they're really not as bad as Aegwynn believes them to be. They'd already abandoned the whole Guardian program after what had happened, and they knew trying to force control over Medivh was wrong, so they sent letters, politely asking him for a meeting. And Medivh just ignored all of them, because he didn't give a crap. So the council tried something else. They convinced various mage orders and schools to send young magi to study as Medivh's apprentice. None of them had any idea their mentor was the Guardian, and none of them would last more than a day. However, the growing darkness inside Medivh was still a concern, and Medivh believed the isolation was playing a part. He spoke to Morose about it, who suggested maybe throw a banquet or something. Invite people from surrounding regions. And this sounded like a great idea. And it was. Everybody had a whale of a time. The Karazhan Gala even succeeded in lifting Medivh's mood, so this became a regular thing. The Council of Tirisfal managed to sneak a few agents into these festivities, but they'd always just end up confused by the reports. It appeared that Medivh was using his power and prominence to live a shallow life of luxury, and that's really not what they'd expected from the son of Aegwynn. As time passed, more apprentices would show up, and Medivh decided not to drive them away. But he expected nothing but excellence from them. If they made a mistake, he'd tell them to piss off. None of these trainees lasted more than a week. He was no longer alone, but his inner darkness soon engulfed every corner of his soul. Between the parties and galas, Medivh had continued his studies in the libraries. He had fully embraced his destiny as a guardian and was determined to learn how to best protect Azeroth. First he learned of demonic lore, tactics and powers, then Azeroth's history. He was inspired by the events during the War of the Ancients, different races and powerful creatures fighting together to stop the Burning Legion. He viewed that as kind of the benchmark moment for his world. Azeroth would probably never match that glory again. The people of Azeroth had spent millennia growing apart. They'd had purpose and unity once, but now they just bicker over dumb stuff. The Legion will invade again. Of course they will. And Azeroth will be too weak to defend itself. Something radical needs to be done to prepare them. Medivh had no idea, but it was totally Sargeras leading him down this train of thought, because it was precisely the same train of thought Sargeras had had when he went all mental. Medivh embraced this final conclusion. Azeroth is fundamentally flawed and will never change on its own. Somebody needed to break the things that created division in the world. Nations, cultures, governments, and kings. He needed an army to accomplish something like that though, so he used his convenient guardian powers to venture beyond Azeroth and into the cosmos. First he looked for any imminent signs of another Legion invasion on Azeroth, and then he was like, thank God for that, Azeroth has time. Sargeras used his influence to draw Medivh towards Draenor, and Medivh witnessed a powerful and warlike people known as Orcs. They were fearsome to behold in battle, and he observed them for a number of years. He saw how they defeated the Draenei with relative ease. He saw how the Legion suddenly discarded them. He saw how their world shriveled and died due to the effects of their fell power, and he saw how desperate they'd become. They'd been easily manipulated by the Legion, and Medivh knew he could easily manipulate them as well. They'd be the perfect army to transform Azeroth forever. Plus, it would be pretty bloody funny to use the Legion's own puppets against it. At this point, Medivh collected his thoughts in writing, documenting his most powerful discoveries and magical techniques, in a volume that would be known as the Book of Medivh. Pretty soon, he's going to make contact with the Orcs. And we're leaving it there! In the next Volume 2 video, Medivh's going to make contact with the Orcs, obviously. The Council of Tirisfal are going to increase their efforts of finding out what the balls Medivh is up to, and we're finally going to reach this dark portal thing I've been mentioning for like a year. As always, thanks very much to those of you who support the channel as patrons. It's very much appreciated. Links in the description for anyone who wants to check the Patreon page out. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, all of that bollocks. And all that's left to say is, thanks for watching, and see ya!